Hey everybody, it's Linda G, and I'm here today with our wonderful Tom T. Moore, who we haven't talked to since his surgery. And you said you're doing much better.
Yep. And thanks for asking. I'm doing recovering extremely well, as my guardian angel Theo said they would take care and make sure that it would go great. So here we are.
And how's your wife doing?
And my wife is doing excellent. She's made great progress from the mild stroke she had only 6 days after my surgery. So she's back working full time and giving everybody.
Right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about your book, First Contact.
Yep.
So you were going to start from the beginning to give us a little history.
Okay. Well, before we get into the history, and this is the first contact.
The book. Thank you.
It looks backwards to me, but hopefully not too.
No, it's forwards. Thank you. I forgot to grab the book.
Okay. And so what's been changing over this last even 5 years, but certainly 10, is that people, and it really started like a couple of years ago when they started releasing some footage of Navy pilots encountering ET craft over the ocean, and so that came out publicly, and then more and more people came out and said, well, I've seen UFOs, and I've seen this and I've seen that. So it's coming because people don't feel like they're going to be ridiculed as they were in the past, and that's very important. People just didn't want to report what they'd seen because people would say, "Oh, you're crazy," or I'm sure it was a kite or a balloon or whatever, all the things that they made up to say that they might be. So that's changing, and that's changed, and it's just going to be a lot more of this coming up. So so we'll kind of go over the book, and then towards the end, I'll talk about what I'm told just in the last couple of weeks that's going to happen in the next 6 months. And it's quite exciting.
So. Yes, please, pray tell.
Okay. So anyway, now keep in mind, I have this weekly free newsletter that
right. I got my newsletter, by the way.
Oh, good. This weekly newsletter, and it's free, and you can sign up for it. But I had a lot of people, there were like two camps. You had the spiritual camp that really believes in souls and creator and so on, and guides and what have you. And then you have this camp with the UFO people that they're more, hey, I know there's something out there, but it's physical. This is what I think it is. So you had these two camps, and what's happening is that they're closing the gap between the two, and this is going to happen much faster in the next couple of 3 years, certainly, than it has happened. And because I've had people that told me, hey, Tom, when you first started talking to this ET, it took me a long time to get used to the idea that you were actually communicating with an extraterrestrial. But slowly but surely, the people that have been reading my newsletter over a period of years, they started accepting it, because I actually started communicating with this ET in 2008. So what happened was that I was having a nice conversation with my guardian angel, who I call Theo, because he says humans can't pronounce angelic names. And he says, and we're not too big on names over here.
Yeah.
So we were having a nice conversation one day. And by the way, anybody can have these conversations because we all have the pineal gland in the back of our heads, and that acts as an antenna. So it's like learning to play chess. You can do a little bit, or if you want to be good at it, you have to practice, 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 as Theo told me over and over and over again, to the point where I stopped asking, because I kept asking, well, am I proving? Am I getting better at this? And he said, practice, practice, practice. So anyway, that's the way that goes. So we were having a nice conversation, and we were talking about some ruins on the other side of the planet. And he said, you're gonna see those one day, and they're going to be pointed out to you. And I said, oh, how's that? Yeah, he said, there's an ET that's going to show them to you. And he says he's tuning in right now. Would you like to ask him some questions? And I mean, I was shocked because I never imagined that that here I'm having what I thought was a personal conversation with my own guardian angel, and suddenly I find out it's a party line where anybody can tune in that does it out of what's called love. So he said, would you like to talk to him? And I said, no, let me think of some questions and let me get back to you. So a couple of weeks later, I had a whole list of questions, and that's when I started communicating. I was to find out that this extraterrestrial, number one, is is part of my soul group, or cluster, as they're called. There are eight fragments of our soul as a member of our cluster, and Antura is a fragment. I'm a fragment, and the original shaman that I first started talking to back in 2005 by the name of Reveals the Mysteries was also another fragment of the same soul. So there you go. These soul clusters can have anywhere typically from 6 to 12 fragments of the same soul, and in what's called a soul cluster, that are having these 600 to 800 lives on Earth. So that's where all that comes from. So I was to find out first that Antura was a member of my soul cluster. I was to find out, I thought that if we ever got to meet ETs, they would look exactly like us, because I was told that it would make it easier for people to accept them, because the Pleiadians, there's a group of Pleiadians that look identically like us, except maybe their ears are a little pointed.
Right.
And so they just look the same, and people say, oh well, okay, they're from outer space, but they look like us. But Antura doesn't look like any Pleiadian or human. He's amphibian, and I was to find out that both he and I originated from the same planet, and that we had thousands of lives on this water planet as amphibians in the Sirius B star system. So that's how we came from the same line. And Antura, after 800 lives on Earth, as in with a sole interest in exploration, he's having this life as he's having this life where he's going to help me with what I'm supposed to do in this life on Earth. He's already had 800 lives in exploration. Now he's back having an amphibious life on the planet Nomo. And right now, he and his 3 first contact grassroots people team are all circling around the planet in this humongous mothership. That's a Syrian mothership that's 3 miles wide, 20 stories tall, and has a crew of 900 plus their families, because most of the crew lives their whole lives on board this humongous ship. So the total number of people on the ship is 1,500.
So is it self-contained?
Everything is self-contained. Everything. They can create any kind of food for. There are 39 different kinds of species of people on board this spaceship from 37 different planets. And so they have machines that in an instant can make whatever kind of food that particular individual wants. And some of them, Antura said, some of them you would not want to sit there and watch them eat, whatever that means. So it may be a little gross to us.
Right.
But they are there, and his teammates are all from the Sirius B system. I don't have their names, and I'm terrible on names. Antura, when we started talking, I kept trying Antu. Finally, one day he almost shouts out, Antura,
Antura.
And so that's how I finally got his name. But his 3 teammates, I call one of them is big guy because he's 7 feet tall. Another one is average guy because he's just average in height. And then there's the exotic girl, because Antura says she's very, very exotic looking with cat eyes, but not really cat eyes, even more different than cat eyes. So, and very black hair. And so anyway, she's part of the crew.
Wow. So what did they say we're going to start noticing in 6 months? More visions?
Okay. Well, what we're going to be seeing in the next 6 months is comprised of a couple of different things. Number one is, as I said, there's going to be a lot more sightings. Antura said, Tom, tell your readers to keep their smartphones on hand, because they're going to have chances to take a lot of photos.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one of the things coming up. Then number 2 is that I said, when are we going to get to a point where, instead of taking photos of little dots in the sky, we're actually going to see a real spaceship? And Antura said that's coming in 6 months. That not only will we people start being able to take photos of spaceships much closer, where you can see their lights and all this sort of stuff, okay, but they're going to be closer. And there is also, in order to make sure that no one is frightened, they're actually, let's just say they're out on a hike or in the woods or whatever, and over on a far ridge, there's an ET, okay, but not close enough that it scares them, but where they can see it. Antura says these are going to be extremely controlled events where no one's going to be frightened. They're going to be far enough away that all people will do, oh, that is really neat, kind of stuff.
And maybe get a picture?
And maybe get a picture, so that they will not frighten the people that are seeing them. So these are all coming up now. I have to mention that in my book, First Contact. All right, everybody. Towards the end of the book, I was getting close to closing the book out and sending it to my publisher. So I'd been having conversations with Antura saying, "Oh, well, he told me I was going to get to ride in his spaceship, one of these scout ships one day." And I thought that was fantastic. Can I take some photos? Oh yeah, you can take some photos. I kept going on like that because I had absolutely no idea what we were leading up to. And finally, just before I closed out the book, it was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to hit him on the head with a 2x4. He said, "Tom," he said, "you and your family are going to come up to our mothership, and you're going to shoot a documentary, and you're going to be able to shoot for 14 days up here, and you'll be able to have it as a full-length documentary. And also, because we're going to shoot so much footage, we're also going to have at least probably 100-episode TV series. So that's what we're supposed to do."
Is that number 4? Is that number 4 that you can do a series, or
Is that what?
it's number 4? You said 6 things. So is this going to happen in the next 6 months, or you don't know?
I'm told that supposedly, okay, they've been having, now we have to go backwards a little bit. There are 12 parallel U's, okay? 12 parallel timelines. We're on timeline number 6. So we're a middle frequency. And that's, so these upper timelines, now timeline 12 is non-physical, and all the other lives of the other timelines are compared against the perfect, what our souls consider the perfect life. So our life is compared against that one, which I don't think is fair, but that's the way it goes. And so timelines 11, 10, 9, 8, and 7 have all now visited the ship. The last one was in May by timeline 7. And so they visited the ship, they shot their documentary, and they're editing it now for their timeline 7 people.
Okay.
So we're coming up, and I said, well, will it be, April, May, June, whatever? And he said, no, maybe a tad sooner than that. So that's the only information I've been given. Things can change, they say, because if something comes up that they don't feel our vibrational level is high enough to accept the idea that there are people living all over the universe.
Yeah.
When so many of our religious doctrines have preached that we're the only intelligent species in the whole universe, nobody else but us, which is, when you think about it, rather quaint now, but a belief system. So that's kind of what's coming along.
So how you didn't give me all 6.
Six what?
You said there's 6 things that are going to happen.
Oh, I thought said several.
Oh,
I hope I didn't say 6. Or who knows? Maybe there might totally be 6. But
hold on 1 second. 1 second. Okay, so you gave us an idea of what's coming up in the next 6 months.
Yep.
And then
okay, so let's kind of also go back.
Okay.
Because Antura went into heavy detail about why we're doing this, and even in the book, I talk about the original Star Wars. There was actually a real Star Wars,
You
which
told
is
me about
why,
that. Yeah.
yeah, which is why it seeped our um, into our sci-fi novels and series and movies. Um, there was a real Star Wars, and it lasted. Now it's not in the book because um, I just didn't get that information at the time, but it lasted for 27,000 universal years. Now, a universal year, well, I should say an Earth year is 10 times faster than a universal year. So for us, it actually lasted 270,000 Earth years. So we're talking about the Star Wars lasting for a very, very long time, which is why even, in the Star Wars movies, if you look, I mean, they kind of spread it out over some eons. Um, it's just hard to imagine that something lasted for 27,000 years when an average ET, let's just say, lives 1,000 or 1,400 um, universal years. That meant that people would have whole lives where they were in fear that a enemy ship would show up one day and blast their sun, destroying all the planets in their solar system, with billions of people that would die. And
Jesus Christ.
that happened on both sides because now these were the reptilians. The reptilians have virtually a whole not solar system, but a whole constellation to themselves. They've taken over, and they decided they needed more um, assets or minerals or who knows what they were after. And so they started taking over planets in the Milky Way. And so that was the beginning of the Star Wars. So it was really a terrible time. And I was told there were even people that died, in one of these destructions. They would come back, live again in another solar system, and it would get destroyed. So it happened more than once to some people. So that's why it was ingrained, because keep in mind, we didn't really start having lives on Earth uh, in any quantity till a million years ago.
Right.
And by then the Star Wars was kind of winding down, which I can get into in a minute. And so that's why so many writers and everything, they experienced this war on a firsthand basis when they were having lives on other planets before they started. They volunteered and were accepted for what's called the Earth experiment. And so um, that's why we all, feel it when we see these Star Wars movies and because it really did happen.
Right.
So how did I get involved? I was, a typical amphibian living on this water planet called Nomo in the Sirius B star system. And it seems like I'm sort of like a Dalai Lama in a way, that every life I would have there, I would reincarnate as this religious spiritual leader of some type. And so things were not going good for what eventually became the Federation of Planets, but uh, it wasn't at that time. They were just sort of an amalgamation of planets. And so we weren't doing very well. The Federation was slowly losing ground. And so finally, I suggested, well, why don't we invite them to take part in the Earth experiment? And it was immediately turned down for a couple of reasons. Number one, the everyone hated the reptilians so much, had so much anger in their hearts. They didn't want to do anything for the reptilians. And so that was one of the major things. So things go on for another 450 universal years, which is 4,500 Earth years. And so finally they said, okay, we'll give it a try. We don't think it'll work, but they offered to include them in this Earth experiment and offered that 10% of the souls taking part in the Earth experiment would be reptilian. And the reptilians accepted it. And so that ended the war.
Damn.
And so that sort of wrote my ticket for my lives on Earth, because my sole interest is religions, and in other lives I advise world leaders because everybody wants me to advise them, since I was successful in advising the Federation. So that's sort of how that came about. A weird story, I know.
I know, that's so weird. Hey, listen, I had a stepdaughter that had a gill right here, an actual gill.
A natural gill, okay.
That you could, like a fish gill. She
Yes.
probably was.
Yes, and I'm told that Antura and the other amphibians only have one gill. And it's kind of like right behind your ear.
Right.
And it's not, if you ever see Abe Sapien in the Hellboy movies, that's about as close as we get to perhaps a amphibian, or maybe what's the creature from 20,000 Leagues or whatever.
Oh movie. Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I can't remember it. But Abe Sapien has these huge gills on either side of his jaw. It's the way they portrayed him. And of course, Antura has only 4 fingers, and the bottom one, so forget the thumb here, the bottom one is offset, so it becomes sort of the thumb. Now, nobody ever thinks about making a hand that way, but that's the way the hands of Antura and his people have them. And there's just so many other
there's so many fascinating. In fact, there's so many sightings right now, but there was even a 1958 sighting that I posted that was from one of our moon launches, and you could see they showed how there was all kinds of UFOs around it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are over in the Ukraine are saying there's a lot of sightings in the Ukraine. Are they really out to make sure that we don't blow ourselves up?
Yes.
Thank you.
They said that when we pass the harmonic convergence, we pass a time where we will not blow ourselves to smithereens again. And they are kind of helping that along too, I think. So
because I had a vision of an ET. I don't think he was a gray, but he started to talk to, he was a master. And he told me at that time that they would not allow us. It's not just making sure we don't blow ourselves up, but we would offset the universe so much that it would hurt them too. So that's why they come, and all these big top-notch generals talk about these sightings that came and shut down everything. They practice,
And they did. Yes, and they can.
Yeah.
So they're so far ahead of us technologically that, and everybody wants to see this Earth experiment work, which, as the creator created it, it was to see if anyone could exist and proliferate, or whatever you want to call it, with 4 negative energies, where the rest of our universe and the trillions of other universes are all exist in 10 positive energies. And these energies are something we will not find for hundreds of years, because no one's even looking for them. No one knows that we exist in this special space-time continuum that is only surrounding our solar system. And after you get out past the Oort belt, it converts over into the 10 positive energies.
And the other thing is we have free will.
Yes. Well, and that's dangerous, but
yeah, but they're hoping that our free will keeps us in place.
Yeah. So, stay on your soul contract. You can say, I request a most benevolent outcome to stay on my soul contract. And you will, and you'll have a better life for doing so.
Right.
So another thing I forgot, there was one of those 6 that are maybe not 6.
Okay.
Astronaut Scott Kelly has recently been asked, and I think he accepted, to be part of a task force that NASA has put together to study UFOs. And so, there are good things happening that are going to push this, getting ready for people to, see real ETs up close. Hope so.
Right. And it's so funny because there's some people I talk to that, well, I don't believe in UFOs. It's like, really? Yeah. You think that we're just this little Earth, Yeah. And somebody on Twitter said,
those are the people that need to see more and more of these sightings. And
right.
And
I'll be honest with you. I wasn't sure. I'll be honest with you. I think I was afraid until I went up with Tana up in Arizona and saw 53 UFOs. And I'm talking, through the military goggles, 2 of them going up like this and then opposite ways. And I was high as a kite. I was so excited. And sometimes they'd even burst, like turn into a big light, like they're telling you, hey, yeah, we're here.
Is that, then, you said Sedona?
Sedona.
Yeah, that's a great place to see UFOs. They used to have a base in one of the mountains there, and now it's rarely used, or maybe a little skeleton force, because Sedona got so popular as a tourist site that people were seeing.
Well, I'm fascinated how many of them are undersea, in the sea.
Yeah.
Down below. That's fascinating.
Well, some of the things now, these have just been coming up recently in conversations I've been having with Antura. He finally admitted these Tic Tac little
the ones that the military was calling Tic Tacs.
Yeah, he said that those are Syrian drones. They're a little bit larger, and they can fly at a slower speed, like 150 miles an hour. And they take readings of people and plants.
But are they actual UFOs, or are you?
Well, I mean, they're ET drones.
Oh, ET. Okay. Yeah. I thought you said Syrian.
And these are Tic Tacs. But he also, and I kind of got onto him, and you reminded me, which I'll explain. Somebody was talking about these Navy pilots seeing these glass spears with a black cube inside when they were out over the water. Yeah. And so I asked Antura about those, and he said, yeah, those are ours too. They're specifically designed to work and take readings not only over water, but underwater. And I said, well, why didn't you tell me about those before? He said, Tom, first of all, it's only been very recently that you even understand what a drone is. Basically, because nobody knew what drones were until they started making these models. And he said, also, don't forget, you have to ask the questions. I am not allowed to just go on and on
Yes.
explaining. You have to ask the questions. So it's up to me and my readers of my newsletter to come up with questions for
Right.
Antura or for on any other subject um, for us to cover. And sometimes, like in the last couple of weeks or so, um, for whatever reason, maybe with the elections coming on or whatever, I don't know. People aren't sending in a lot of questions.
Okay.
I now this should be for tomorrow, but I've got I've got a gap here
Oh, wow.
where I'm missing, and I can do my meditative session without it. It's just that I have room for one or two more questions if somebody comes up with something. So
Okay.
a lot of times I have so many questions that it's like takes
You
me.
can't get all
I
of them.
do, yeah, I do 2 sessions a week because they're an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it's very mentally tiring. And so, if I have so many questions, I have those two, and then I still have enough for at least one or two more sessions. Beyond that, it's fine. I'll get to them eventually.
There's a show, I can't remember which, you know how they have all these mysteries unsolved and all these ET things. There was a story that made my hair on my arm stand up, and it was in Vietnam, and it was the soldiers that saw a lot of UFOs in Vietnam.
Mm,
And this one particular jet shot at it, shot at the UFO, and
okay.
it took the bullets that shot them and sent it right back and shot them. And then another boat out at sea in Vietnam was hit by some sort of missile. And when they looked to see what the missile was, it was a United States missile. So it takes whatever we shoot at them and sends it
Mm.
right back. Is that true, or?
I don't know. I haven't asked that question. I do know recently I was told that they are very heavily covering the war in Ukraine. That they're
Yes,
really,
I felt that. Isn't that something?
yeah,
Yeah, and I felt they would make sure that Putin couldn't blow it up.
yeah. And so they're, when they do these studies, they're far beyond what we understand. I mean, they
Yes,
can study our auras, uh, you know, uh,
our
energy
intentions.
bodies, you name it, physical bodies, any kind of reading that you can imagine and not imagine, because we haven't gotten there yet. And it's um, losing my train of thought. It's uh, when they say they're covering the war, I'm sure that they're covering the feelings of the people that are that are stressed out not only from being soldiers but also from being the victims, being uh, the refugees,
Assaulted, yes.
and they can take these readings while passing by at 2,000 to 30,000 miles an hour, zoom past. You don't even see them. And that they can take these readings so fast of hundreds of thousands of people.
Wow. So that's beautiful.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I've wondered, because I hear an actual voice talk to me in
mhm.
English terms. And I've often wondered, it's a male voice. I've often wondered, is that an actually, because the people, not the people, whatever they are that I see, people say, oh, what do my guys look like? I see like cocoon energy, like that movie Cocoon. They're brilliant light.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they talk in human form, but when they talk to me, it's like a male voice, never really loving or affectionate or my beloved, nothing like
Yeah,
that.
just
Very
neutral
to the point. Very to the point.
and
You will
neutral.
start a YouTube video. Oh, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get up and brush my hair. Linda, you will help calm people down. Okay. And then they said, if your ego is involved, we will remove your gift. We will remove your gift. Because I know I can get a little ego.
Yeah. We all have.
But they literally talk to me and they give me signs like this next, and this is, everybody knows I've said this, and I don't know if you even watch my show, but I want to tell you that my prediction is that we'll take both houses. The Democrats will take both houses. And everybody's saying, oh no, the Republicans. And I'm like, I'm telling you, they showed me ants. Ants. Ding, 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 ding. And the ants build their own bridges. They get through anything to get to their destiny. And just yesterday, I sent my friend a link that said, 40% of the Gen Zs totally plan on voting, and most of them plan on voting Democrat. It's the young people and the women that are going to change this around. Now, it may be close and there may be cheating, but I see both houses not being taken away from the Democrats.
Well,
that's my prediction.
And if you read this week's newsletter, I had an update on the elections.
Oh gosh, I didn't see it. I can't believe it. I looked at it. I was so happy to get the newsletter. So what did it say? What did it say?
Well, almost the same thing as you, that the, I wish I had, I don't have my newsletter.
But this is from your people, your realm.
Yeah.
Your guy said, don't worry, or what did he say?
Yeah, I think Guy, Soul of the Earth, I asked about this because she had told me previously that was how it was going to work out. And so I said, okay, Guy, we're getting close. I said, the Senate, looks like a toss-up, but the House, House of Congress, looks like it's going to go for the Republicans. And I was told almost the same thing as you just said, that that even though women and whoever say they're voting Republican or whatever, that when they get in the voting booth, that they vote who they want. And
yeah, they don't want their daughters to have to keep a rapist baby.
Yeah, so it's going to be close. Gaius calls it tenuous control, meaning just barely. But
and we might even go through some legal stuff.
Oh yeah, she said.
Oh, they've already got all their paperwork filed to impeach President Biden.
She said, I call her she, even though, but Gaia to me is feminine. She said that there would be lawsuits galore.
Thank you.
Legal stuff galore was the word she used. So I said, okay. I said, that's what I received.
Did she mention if the Senate is going to get more people? I feel more people.
Okay.
Not too close. Like now, I feel a couple of more people.
Okay. I didn't get that. It was tenuous for both of them, but it may happen.
So. Yeah, because it's the youth too that's coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, they say, okay, women, even if you're assaulted, you have to keep the baby. Now they're talking about getting rid of Social Security and Medicare. Who are they trying to please?
Yeah.
And they're talking about, oh yeah, we're going to stop this nonsense with giving kids away from student loans. Well, that makes the kids come out and say, oh, hell no. I mean, it's like they're saying things that are so crazy. You're thinking they're not even going to fake it that they want to win. And yet they're so pompous. They're so sure they're going to win. They're already showing on Twitter their paperwork to impeach Biden.
Oh, my God.
They just know they're going to win. I saw McCarthy with his face all messed up because he's like so upset they lose. And I see McConnell just deciding. I just saw him, that look he gave when McCain put the thumbs down. I saw that look of, I'm just getting out of here. I'm done.
Yeah.
He won't hang
McConnell,
around.
I've been told, will resign if they lose the Senate. That's who it is.
That's it. But
Yeah,
listen, I want to ask for a most benevolent outcome, if you could say out loud, for Nancy Pelosi's husband who was
sure.
attacked.
Okay.
Apparently, he's in surgery right now.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
Um, Everyone, you can repeat after me. I ask any and all beings to aid, comfort, and assist
To aid, comfort, and assist.
Mr. Pelosi
Paul
uh,
Pelosi.
in recovering from his injuries and returning back to full health.
Returning
Thank you.
back to full health. Because he's 80 years old.
82.
A hammer to the head is not good.
No, 82. Yeah.
Oh, he's 82?
Yeah.
And he looks fabulous, by the way. He's a
Yeah.
handsome man.
Yeah.
So,
He's
okay. Well, thank you so much. My God, we almost had an hour. It just flew by.
Oh, well, did we forget to talk about something?
Did we?
Well,
I have time if you've got it.
Okay.
I love the info you just gave us. I'm so excited.
You know, one of the things that I found very interesting when I was writing the book and receiving stuff from Antura was that they have what are called universal translators, and it's also the same little device, and it sounds like just something you barely stick on your skin or something. I haven't gotten that. Supposedly I will find out for sure, because they're going to have to give me one for us to breathe the air in the spaceship.
Right.
That this little device will translate even thoughts, you name it. So in other words, when we go out to the stars, when the explorer race starts exploring the stars ourselves, we're going to have to use this being able to speak to people using that pineal gland in the back of our heads, and that's how we're going to have to do it. They've progressed past that point, way beyond that point. But when we go out, if we're talking to plant being, that's intelligent, or a rock being, or an animal being, or whatever, or a bird being, I mean, how are we going to communicate with them unless we're use telepathy?
Right.
And that was one of the things that I found interesting. Plus, this device acts as a spacesuit. It completely surrounds you so that you can even go out into the void of space and be able to survive because you have this invisible spacesuit on.
Wow.
And so one of the things that Antura has told me we're going to do during the time we're there is that we're going to take a trip to the moon. And I'm thinking, hey, this would be pretty neat to try that thing out.
Well, it's funny you said that, because a lot of people see ETs that have on suits. It says that it almost looks like their skin, but it's like their head is wrapped in something.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you that's it.
Could be.
Yeah.
Some neat things.
I know.
There's I can't remember. I think I may have found it or had it in the book. There is a spaceship that was destroyed during Star Wars that is on the backside of the moon. And
I believe that.
It was, it was destroyed during the Star Wars, and the hulk of the ship is laying on the moon, and I've been told we'll get to visit that and take some videos of
But
it.
Earth wasn't destroyed.
Hmm?
Earth was not destroyed.
No, 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 no.
And that's something.
Yeah, no, we, um,
So how do people get in touch with you, Tom?
pretty easy.
Yeah, do you want me to just take your, I'll put it on here on below. I'll put your link.
Yeah. Yeah, the link is www.thegentlewaybook.com. Okay. And on the very first page is a little box, and you can sign up to receive the newsletter. Now, there's been one problem, and I don't think it's going to be fixed in the next week or two, because my son is about to go on a big vacation, and he's our IT guy.
Okay.
So when our hosting company was bought by another hosting company for websites, um, when they migrated over my newsletter list, about 1,800 people were blacklisted. Why, I don't know. And I've slowly but surely been trying to add people back in, but it is a slow job, I can tell you. So if you are not receiving your newsletter, then send me an email, but just know that if I get 500 of these at one time, it's going to take a little time to
Right.
add you back in. So it's one of these things that we need to find another hosting company or something that I'll be able to get this fixed.
Did the entities ever say anything about Elon Musk or no? If they
Probably,
didn't, that's cool.
yeah. I think so. It's just that if you want to look to see if I've received anything on him, which I think I have, you just go to my website,
And then,
go to articles and news, where all of my newsletters have been archived since 2007, and you just type in Musk,
it'll
and
show.
it'll show whatever I've received on it.
He's a very brilliant man. He's Asperger's, but he's paid too much for Twitter, and he's going to run it into the ground.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to save it when he's saying on one hand, it's going to be a gentle service and all this other stuff. On the other hand, oh, I'm going to let everybody back in. Well, you can't have both.
Well, he just put Kane West back in,
Oh,
who
great.
the anti-Semitic that said everybody should die and all that. So
Yeah.
that already tells you the direction he's going.
Yeah, that's
There's a site called Tribal, very sweet site. Doesn't like any riffraff, and I joined that. So okay.
okay.
So
we covered most of it.
we'll keep in touch more. As soon as I know when that surgery is, we'll get our 2023 calendar going, if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. Okay, you guys, thank you very much.
Best of luck.
Best of
Benevolent
luck.
outcomes for everybody.
Most benevolent outcomes for everyone.